Good afternoon and welcome to the 2020 Economic Recession and Preparation channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me once again on this Thursday, July 30th, 2020, as we're entering almost into another month, August. It's hard to believe that time has flew by so fastly in the second quarter. Things have really picked up the pace now as we head toward that all-important day of the election day, November 3rd. Second quarter GDP plunged by 32.9% amid the sickness-induced shutdown. Now, this was no surprise to the majority of us that have been following this for a long time. We knew that the numbers were going to be bad, not just because of the shutdown, but because of what happened before the shutdown, where companies were overspent, over-leveraged, and heavy in debt. According to CNBC.com, the U.S. economy, suffered its worst period ever in this past second quarter, with GDP falling an historic 32.9%. This has never happened before. Even the Great Depression, the numbers were not so bleak, nor in the Great Recession, nor in any other slump in the past 2 centuries that has caused such a sharp drain in the economy. So we have a record drop in GDP, but yet we have these top 5 companies making record profits. We have, and those companies that I'm sure you guys know of, is Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Google, and Netflix or Alphabet. Apple's earnings for quarter 3, according to CNBC.com article today, Apple posts a blowout third quarter with sales up 11%. Despite despite the sickness disruptions. Okay, so their sales are up 11%. They announced today that they're going to do a 4-for-1 stock split amid earnings. Apple made $59.7 billion in revenue and a double-digit growth in its products today, which was helped by the iPhone SE and other product demands. And they announced at the end of August they're going to do a 4-for-1 stock split. Also, Amazon's earnings. Amazon reported sales of $88.9 billion. That's up 40% from $63.4 billion a year prior. And that's well ahead of their own predictions of $75 billion. So Amazon promised to spend its profits amid the sickness, according to MarketWatch.com. But they ended up with record earnings anyway. So if you remember, just like in the Great Depression, just like in the Great Recession of 2008, we had company mergers, and we also had monopolies during the Great Depression. If you notice, in the telecommunications sector, we had the latest merger of Sprint and T-Mobile. Now, normally with antitrust laws and monopoly laws, normally things like that wouldn't happen. But because these companies are becoming bigger than the government in terms of what they make, the revenue, and the impact that they have on a lot of these states' revenue in terms of bringing so-called jobs and, mind you, they don't pay a livable wage, but sometimes so-called jobs and tax benefits to these states, they're desperate that they can basically do whatever they want. And so now we have a situation where the dollars and cents are flowing to these 5 companies, tech companies, all in technology. And it's very artificial because you have the majority of wealth in the hands of a few. And this is what happened during the Great Depression and during the times of the 1920s and 30s too as well. We had big monopolies, big conglomerate companies who basically controlled everything. And that put a drain on the economy. As you see, GDP was down 32.9%. That put a drain on people's pocketbooks. And but even the big companies, this time it's going to be so different. It's that the big companies are going to, like Amazon and UPS and FedEx and Facebook, those companies are going to experience revenue drop sooner or later because the jobs are just not there. And this worldwide depression is going to limit people's consumption, even at home, because of the sickness. And you're going to see that coming up in the first quarter, in this final quarter of 2020, and in the first quarter of 2021. You're going to see the drop happen. Next up, job numbers. Job numbers continue to go up in record numbers. I told you this is the 18th straight week last time that we've had numbers of 1.4 million workers, initial unemployment gains rising, okay? Again, this Thursday, we experienced another 1.4 million jobs lost. Okay, so even though the media is touting that we're heading to this digital gig economy, the transition is not going to be that fast. Number one, and number two, we just don't have enough production in the U.S. to support our 350 million people that we have here right now. There's even talk of not not extending the $600 Unemployment Act. As you know, that runs out tomorrow, July 31st. The Senate, both bills failed in the Senate. The Democrats' version failed. They give another $1,200 stimulus to everyone, and they wanted to even give $1,200 to your kids, to dependents and kids, $1,200. I hope they don't mail checks out to dead people again like they did the first stimulus. They were mailing stimulus checks out to dead people. Secondly, the Republicans' version of the bill failed as well to pass, where they were planning on reducing it to $200 a week, and then after that, after October, that would drop after October 5th to 70% of an individual's previous wages until the end of the year. Either way, it's not enough to make ends meet, as inflation, the real inflation numbers, as we know, the truth here is around 8 to 10%. Okay, not the 2% target that the Federal Reserve Bank has been telling us. As a matter of fact, there is going to be a liquidity cash crisis happening. So save your dollars and cents, because regardless if you get another stimulus check or not, cash is going to be, in coins, is going to be in short supply. As a matter of fact, I was at a major prominent bank recently, and what they're doing is they're closing down a lot of the branches that they feel are not bringing in the volume of people. And also, they're closing down ATMs. I don't know if you've been to ATMs before. They're saying the ATM said you can only deposit money, but you can't withdraw money. Maybe you've seen that with some of these prominent banks that you've been to, like Bank of America or Chase or any of the other prominent banks. Be on the lookout for that, okay? So, because a lot of these banks are in trouble. They're in trouble because they don't have the cash on hand. Remember, the Federal Reserve Bank said that you don't have to have reserve requirements, meaning that the banks don't have to have the money, actual money on hand to give to you when you make a withdrawal or a deposit. They don't have to have 20. They don't have to hold 20% back. Okay, that was passed back in March when they dropped the rates down to zero. Okay, so look for the Federal Reserve in the next quarter. I mean, I would probably say just before the election time, when they meet in October, early in October, maybe before, to drop these rates down to negative rates, interest rates. And it's not going to mean anything for us, but it is going to mean something for this economy, because it's going to tell you that the economy is not in a recovery mode as many people thought it would be by now, and we are plunging deeper and deeper into a recession, yay, a depression. And that's why it's so important to continue to prepare with the money that you do have. Any extra dollars that you do have, for whether from the stimulus and or a paycheck or otherwise, should be going into preparations, your food, water, medicine, gold, silver, crypto, a homestead, property, anything that you can shore up now before the storm hits. We're in the beginning portions of this storm. And we just have so much converging that it's just the jobs are not coming back, and these businesses are not coming back. And this may very well be the last stimulus package ever that we're going to have under this system. And that's why it's so important, because this last stimulus package, however it passes, is going to be the last one, because we're basically broke. Okay. And the $2.2 trillion CARES Act that was in March, this new one is going to be at least $1 trillion. So Main Street has had, I'm counting up the aid between both the given to businesses and individuals, we've had at least $3 trillion already spent on Main Street and individuals. Now, on the corporate side, all these businesses bailouts, there has been at least $5 trillion. So we're already over $10 trillion almost if this next one passed. And that's not counting the debt. The national debt is already at $26 trillion and growing, and that's not going to be paid down. And another thing to watch out too, I want to tell you this also as well. Today, the dollar index fell a couple of points as well. And so your purchasing power every day is losing value against other currencies, okay? And people say on the media they paint it as just a short-term thing. I don't think so, okay? The dollar index fell today. And that's a sign it fell down just a half a percentage point to $92, but it's been slipping the last few days. And that's a sign that the dollar is getting weaker. That's a sign that different things are going to be coming. So you want to be able to have cash on hand, in your hand, not in a bank, not in a safe deposit box, but you want to have cash on hand, because if that happens, if the dollar continues to slide, they're going to be limiting your withdrawals at the bank, and also you may not have access to it to get the survival supplies that you need. So that's why it's so critical that you have cash on hand, because you're going to need it in the short term to get the supplies that you need. That's going to be in short supply anyway, because the supply chain is still broken from this sickness. So that's why another factor that we have to look out for. So do that as best as you can. If one bank doesn't give you your money, then drive to another one. If you have to drive across town or drive to another city to get it, then get it. Or go to a grocery store to get cash back. Do that. That's what I've been doing, because they've been limiting that thing. So continue to prepare. We do know that the economy cannot fully recover until the sickness is defeated, if it is never defeated, because we haven't came up with a vaccine that's effective for the flu. We haven't came up for a vaccine that's effective for the measles or any of these childhood diseases or even adult diseases that's 100% effective. So even if we do come out with a vaccine in the next 2 years, there's no guarantee that that's going to be effective, and that may harm more people than the actual sickness itself. So just keep that in mind. Continue to prepare, and I will talk to you very, very soon, shortly, and have a blessed day and rest of the week. Thank you.